Get to look at my nice old-fashioned basement. I think I'm going to turn the clock off. Yeah. Hello, Heather. Hello, Bridget.
Hi, you already said hi to me, but I'll say hi again.
Okay.
Hi, Paul.
Hi. And then Jacqueline, Brandon, and Holly are on here, I see. Wait a minute. Holly's the first one up, right? No, John Barber's the first one up. He's not here yet. Here we go. All right, got all three things here. All right.
Hi, Eric.
How you doing this evening?
I'm fine. How are
Eric.
you?
Hey, Eric.
Yep.
There's only four of us. Should I say something about that, or is that only when we have three of us?
Only when there's three.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to check.
I mean, it said they have to get 3 out of 4 votes.
Okay. Okay.
Jonna had accepted, but I had not received an acceptance from anyone else. So I'm not, we're still waiting for Dave and Deborah
Okay, thank you.
and Jonna to join as well, but
Yeah, we'll get started
Here-
as soon as
here-
they get,
Here comes Deborah. Yeah, we can't start yet. We don't even have a quorum. Here, Debbie and Dave are both joining now. I bet you John and Will here in a minute too.
okay, there's Dave. There's Debbie.
Are we supposed to be seeing things, or are we waiting for somebody to blow the little round thing?
It's not quite 7. I'd like to give it a minute or two because Jonna did accept here he comes. He's joining right now. So once Jonna's here, we have all the applicants and then a full, the 4 members of the board, and we can begin. Let him join here in just a
Oh, I'm
minute.
in no rush. What the hell? I'm retired.
Okay,
All right.
we're all here.
Yes.
Here we go. I'd like to call the City of Kent Board of Zoning Appeals public hearing and business meeting for April 19th, 2021, 7 p.m. is started. Call to order. Okay, roll call, please.
Dave Mail.
Shauna Burton,
Okay. Deborah? Debbie?
I think she's frozen.
I think so too.
Deborah Douglas.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, and myself, Paul. Okay, preamble. Variance requests will be considered in the order that they appear on the agenda. Each variance applicant or their representative will first explain the request to the board and will respond to the board questions. The board will then hear statements from persons supporting the variance, followed by statements from those persons opposing the variance. All persons making statements will do so under oath and shall state their name and address for the record. Their testimony shall be directed to the board and not to the audience. If a member of the audience wishes to ask a question of one of the speakers, he or she shall first be recognized by the chair of the board and direct the question to the chair. The chair will then direct the question to the appropriate witness. This will allow the board meeting to be conducted in an orderly manner. If written statements have been provided to the board, they will be included in the record of this meeting. At the chair's discretion, they may be read into the record during the meeting. After all testimony has been taken, the board will discuss and review the request. Generally, the Board of Zoning Appeals will decide or approve and deny each requested variance at the meeting that it hears in testimony. Some decisions may be continued for further review. And at this point, I would like to ask Mr. Fink to administer the oath to our.
Well, we've got a little bit more to read here. So
Yep.
every instance where the
Come on,
board
Paul.
recommends or grants a variance, there must be a finding by the board that the strict application of the provisions of the zoning code would result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship inconsistent with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. 2, that there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property involved or to the intended use or development of the property that do not apply generally to other properties within the same zoning district. And 3, the granting of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to the public interest or to adjacent property owners or improvements in such districts in which the variance is sought, and will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning ordinance.
Okay, the Board of Zoning Appeals operates according to the provisions of the Kent City Zoning Code, which provides for the establishment of the board. Members of the board, Kent citizens serving without pay, visit sites and hear evidence both pro and con at public meetings before carefully and conscientiously rendering a decision. After a decision has been made, the case is closed for the board and there is no provision in the code for the board to reopen a case. If the petitioner disagrees with the findings of the board, there are only two proper procedures. One is to resubmit a revision of the request that is more compatible with the code. And the second is to institute legal procedures in the Common Pleas Court.
Anyone who's going to be testifying in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals, if you please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give before the Board of Zoning Appeals shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. New business. Our first case this evening is case BZ 21-006. John Barber, 647 South DePeyster Street. He's requesting two variances, a 46-foot variance from the 60-foot minimum front yard setback for an accessory structure, in addition to be constructed 14 feet from the property line. A second variance from section 1161.27, paragraph A, to allow driveway to be 46 feet wide, where 24 feet is the maximum width. Mr. Barber, would you like to present your case?
Sure. Thank you for having me. First off, I appreciate your time. So basically, as you can see on the paperwork that I submitted, the overhead map that I submitted to the zoning board for the appeal, I'm in a unique situation. I'm on a corner lot, so I'm facing South DePeyster Street, which I really have no frontage on South DePeyster Street. And then, of course, Hall Street goes up the side of my property. So I have two front yards, which I learned when I first moved here 2 years ago. So having said that, now I have to fall within this 60-foot property line, but my house and my garage that currently exists doesn't meet that as it sits. That's the first issue. So it doesn't even, there's no way I don't even meet it on either side, even as my house and as the garage sits, which I purchased 2 years ago, about 3 years ago now, I guess. So I'm coming of age to retire, and I was looking for a project, and I found a 1941 Ford fire truck that I want to restore. And obviously I don't want to restore it outside. I want to restore it inside the structure. So it doesn't fit in the current garage that I have to be able to put it in there, to be able to restore it in there where it's at. And so I put in a building request to build an addition on the backside of the garage, which takes it up the yard more. And anyone who's come by here knows that I'm on a sloped lot from coming down from Vine Street and coming down. So I'm on a sloped lot. So it'll be moved up, 16 feet from the backside of the garage, but I need to come out 28 feet to be able to get the fire truck into the garage, to be able to work on it and get around it and work on it and do that type of stuff. And so obviously it's going to be 4 foot in front of the current existing garage, because the garage now is 24 feet long. So this is going to be 16 by 28, I think is what the request was for. And so I need to come 4 foot closer to Hall Street, not to DePeyster, but to Hall Street, in order to do that. And then the second request for the driveway was merely because once I build this garage, it would be almost impossible to be able to jockey that truck into that garage without being able to come straight in off of Hall Street and back in, to try to back in at an angle, which, again, the city has an easement, although they're not using the easement on the Hall Street side. I could only build that driveway very short, and it'd have to come around into that garage, and it would be impossible to try to back into it from the road. So.
Okay. Board members, anyone have questions for Mr. Barber?
Not I.
Okay, if I understand, you're going to put the addition on the south side of the garage? No, the south side of the garage?
Yeah,
Towards Hall Street?
I got to get my directions north. No, it would be on the east side of the garage.
Okay, that's
Because it'd
what
be
I
going
thought
up the
from
hill,
description. So you're going towards the back of your lot that is on, technically, I guess we call it the DePeyster back of the lot.
Yeah, I'd be going up towards Vine Street. Yeah.
And then your driveway is basically going to be the full width of the front of the street facing side of the garage?
Yeah, that's what I hope to do, is to make it even with the garage. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else have questions for Mr. Barber? Okay. Public comment. Is there anybody present that wishes to speak for the variance? Okay, hearing none. Is there anyone present that wishes to speak against the variance? Bridget, would anything have come in via any of the other communication paths?
No, there has not, we have not received any other communications. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, public comment is closed. So now we discuss as a board. Comments, gentle people.
Okay, I'll start comment. I drove by there today and initially when reading it, thought, boy, that's a pretty serious variance. And then I saw what he was trying to do, and he's got lots of land off to the side of the garage. I mean, that's not a problem. And the way he has expressed it, it all makes very logical sense. I didn't know why he wanted a longer garage, but if you get a longer vehicle and you want it in the garage, you either have to saw part of the vehicle off or lengthen the garage. It appears that I was very interested to see if any of the neighbors would have an objection and say, oh, it's going to be obtrusive and it's going to go to the street. But nobody seems to have made any comment to Bridget about this one way or the other. He's got the land. I don't see, the garage sits there anyway. I don't see that this presents a huge problem. He does have a hardship in that he's got, like many houses and things we see, he's got 2 front yards. However, the front yard facing the side street is not terribly obvious. I don't see that this makes an onerous addition to the neighborhood. That's why I was interested to see if any of the neighbors felt so, and evidently they don't. They made no comment. That's my comment.
I think Dave summed all those points up really well. I admit I had the same curiosity when I read the variance requests as far as what's going in this massive structure. But hearing that it's a project, it's obviously nothing commercial specific, and then also looking at the lot and seeing that most likely impacted neighbor to your east has their own garage kind of in between their house and this proposed addition. So then really the only other neighbor that could be affected is across the street, and there it's across the street, So I agree with all of Dave's sentiments that it makes sense. Now that you explain it, it makes all the sense. Thank you.
Anyone else? Debbie? Locked up again?
Hello, Debbie.
Debbie? I think we lost her.
I think Debbie's computer's frozen.
I think she's frozen too. There
There
she
we go. Debbie?
Debbie, sometimes if you turn off your video, it helps unfreeze it a little bit and it goes a little bit better if your internet at home is acting up. I've unfortunately learned that the hard way.
Okay, Debbie is back. All right,
There she is.
there you are, Debbie. Any comment on the situation?
Yes, unmute. There we go. Yes.
The only question I had was I was just curious on you guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
You can hear me? Oh, okay. The only
Now you froze
only
again.
question I had was I was wondering if in garage, like I was just curious. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it keeps freezing though, on and off.
Oh, I was just wondering if it would be a single garage. Curious on that. John, whenever you can answer.
Yeah, so actually the garage that exists now is what I guess is classified 2.5 car. So there's a double garage door that opens, and then there's a half section kind of a work area. So this is just adding another bay to that. So it would then become a 3.5 car garage basically with the addition.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what everybody else said as well. I think this is probably the best you could do would be to add on that side, given that, it's probably the least intrusive to all of your neighbors would be to add to that side.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't have any other objections.
Okay, kind of summarized then, I think the unique situation is the small lot, 2 front yards. That would be, to me, the exceptional circumstance. Also is that it is this very small lot, which we run into that a lot with smaller lots in some of the older neighborhoods in the 2 fronts. I do have a quick question for Mr. Barber. Are you going to add a third door, or will you be using the existing double door?
No, it'll
access?
have its own door. It'll be a 10 by 10 basically, because again, the truck's width
Okay.
obviously will have to, and the goal is to just get it to be able to go in as straight as possible when I back in off the road. So
Okay, and that'll face the Hall Street side,
that is
correct?
correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I have to agree with the comments of the board that I think it's an acceptable exception based on the situation and your need. It's not terribly intrusive. My feeling is, since no neighbor has come forward to comment on it negatively, that's a good sign. So at that point, with the committee, is anybody willing to make a motion?
Sure. Let me find my motion sheet here. There it is. All right. I guess the only compromise Mr. Barber would have is to restore a Morris Minor instead of a fire truck. And, I think
couldn't
the fire
find one of
truck would be
those.
cool.
Yeah, I looked, I
Oh.
couldn't find one.
Okay, in case BZ 21-006, John Barber, owner of the property at 647 South Peister Street, I move we grant the applicant's request for a 46-foot variance from the 60-foot minimum front yard setback for an accessory structure to be constructed 14 feet from the front property, East Hall Street, in accordance with section 1161.14 alpha.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, let's vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, variance 1 passes. Dave, you're on a roll. You want to do the second one too?
Sure. In case BZ 21-006, John Barber, owner of the property at 647 South Peister Street, I move we grant the applicant's request for a variance from section 1161.27 alpha to allow a driveway to be 46 feet wide where 24 is the maximum permitted.
Do we have a second, please?
I will second.
John, okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
Okay, and yes, so that one passes also. Okay. We're good to go, Mr. Barber. Thank you for,
Yes.
Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
you're welcome. And enjoy your restoration project.
All right, thanks.
Take care. Okay, moving on. Case BZ 21-007. Jacqueline and Brandon Morris, 446 Sunrise Boulevard. They're requesting a variance from section 1161.14 to allow an accessory structure to be constructed on a lot without a principal structure. Okay, would you like to present your case, please?
Sure. I don't have anything written down, so I'm just gonna try to remember how I wrote it. But so we have an existing 16 by 20 shed on a parcel that is separate from our home, so our existing dwelling. And the recommendation or the requirement was for us to either request a variance if we met a hardship or consolidate our lots, which we feel like is, well, for one, is really expensive. And for two, we didn't realize that that was even an issue, being that our property is, we just understood it as one property, one lot, one deed, which is how we purchased the property 5 years ago. And so when we did that building, we really had no idea that it was going to be an issue. So the reason that it is so far back away from our house is, number one, we have some water issues. It would still be parcel 2 though, so I guess that's kind of irrelevant. But on parcel 1, I think that's the correct number, but the parcel where our house is, the leftover land that's there is a pretty small area. And with the requirements to be, I believe it's 15 feet off of the house, the existing dwelling, to build the size shed that we wanted to, it would be either too close to the house or too close to the property line. So we didn't have enough room on our first parcel where our house is for that building to be there. And then the second reason is that there's a pretty, there's a downgrade from our house out to the rest of our yard, which I'm sure most houses are set up like that to avoid water damage. And so we would have had to pay even more to, level out that land to bring it closer to the house. So those are our two main reasons that it was on the second parcel.
Okay. Thank you. Board members, any questions of the petitioners?
There's no access. Yeah.
Not from me.
There's no access to the barn. I know that was maybe an issue that somebody might have had, that it says there's no egress, so you can't really drive to it. So it's pretty much just in a spot where it's like dead space back there. And
we could never really sell that land separately, is what you're getting at, right? There wouldn't be any road access except through our first parcel. It's a parcel in front and a parcel in back, rather than next to each other.
Okay. Any questions from the committee members? Okay, now I have a question real quick. Do you own both properties, correct? Do you own both properties, correct?
I think they're frozen.
I think we've lost them now.
Yeah. Can you
Can you hear us, Jacqueline? Okay,
there?
there we go.
Oh, they're back.
All right, can you hear us?
We can confirm, the city can confirm, Heather can confirm, but I do believe they own both.
Yes.
I think they do too.
Right.
They
Okay.
do.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what she said earlier.
And that back lot is totally landlocked. Okay,
Correct.
All right, any further comments, questions from the board? Hearing none,
I'm sorry, correct.
who said something? Debbie, did you?
No,
Yep,
that was Jacqueline. She
Okay.
said you are correct.
No.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It's gonna go to the board member
Can you
discussion
hear us
at
now?
this point, so you
We
guys
can
can
hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
All right, we can hear you. All
We can
right,
hear you
it's
guys.
time
Can
to
you hear
ask, is
us?
there anybody present that is in favor of
We
the
can't.
variance?
Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you now, Jacqueline. Is there anybody, neighbors, community that is in favor of the variance? Hearing none, is there anybody that is against the variance who would speak up? Hearing none, public comment is closed, and now we will discuss it as a board.
Bridget, you had no communication from any of the neighbors to add to this at all?
No, the city did not receive any comments on this.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, I guess I'll start it off, but doesn't mean I'll read it. I drove by there and it's pretty obvious once you drive by that what they described is the case. I mean, that property is terribly deep. The shed barn, if you will, sits way in the back and it is not obtrusive at all to the neighborhood. I did not walk the property to see if there was indeed a wet quagmire, but I will trust them that that is true, because that's true of a lot of lots in Kent. I don't, while it's kind of an odd thing, they don't want to unite the properties, which they could do, which would be an expense to get exactly where they are now. I didn't see any. I do agree with their hardships that the backyard is totally landlocked. I mean, it really is part of their property and they do own it. I didn't see any problem with that.
Okay. Thank you, David. Jonna? Debbie?
Yeah, in looking at the property, I don't think they could have put much of any kind of outbuilding there on the first lot, the first parcel, and adhered to, rear line, side yard, every other kinds of setback requirements. So the location they went with, presumably slightly higher ground. It is back near the wood line. It blends in very nicely. In fact, I had to drive by the house a couple of times. So just to try and understand, kind of not realizing at first it was a pre-existing structure, because it all just kind of fits so nicely. But I kind of think in the future it would make sense to combine the lots. And that way this type of issue wouldn't arise for any future structures for either the current property owners or any future property owners. But I could see how that might be something to talk about during the time of sale or some other time. Being what it is, I don't really see any issues.
Thank you, Jonna.
Debbie?
So I agree with what Jonna was saying. I do think at some point it would be a good idea to combine the two parcels. And I do think what they're doing is probably the best that they could do, especially because there is, like they said, no other, it's not, like they can't really access it without coming straight through their parcel. So it makes sense that, there's no other way to really get there. So yeah, I agree.
Okay. Summarizing, I walked it Sunday or Saturday, and it sits very unobtrusively back along a tree line. As you look at the mortgage location survey, there would have been no way they could have put this shed on the parcel 2 where the house sits. The other thing I noticed is that back lot is totally landlocked. It has no value, it can't be sold separately. So I would agree, I'm not going to mandate it, but it would be something to consider in the future, merging the 2 lots into 1 parcel. In that way,
Clarify, Paul, to clarify, any parcel can be sold.
Okay, yeah, it could be sold, but
It
yeah,
just couldn't be developed.
true.
Landlocked parcels cannot be developed. So I just
Okay.
wanted to clarify for the record.
Thank you for the clarification. So I think I have to agree with the, pardon?
So just also on behalf of the city, so we want to make it clear that we want to have at least a discussion of whether or not it should be consolidated at this point in time for all the reasons that you have already laid out, because that would be a way of avoiding the hardship if this parcel were in fact consolidated. That would solve the issue of variance. If the only issue is financial, that's not a hardship.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, kind of agreeing with the committee that, you know, it's not obtrusive to the neighborhood. Based on the situation of the properties, it's really about the only place you could have placed it. I think it'd be an undue hardship to deny it. So at this point, I will ask if there is a motion, please.
Gonna exercise your stentorian voice.
Stentorian even. In case number BZ 21-007, the applicants Jacqueline and Brandon Morris, owners of the property at 446 Sunrise Boulevard, Kent, Ohio, I move to grant the applicant's request for a variance from section 1161.14 to allow an accessory structure to be constructed on a lot without a principal structure.
I'll
Okay,
second that.
Dave, second. Okay, let's vote.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
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 Okay, it passes. Thank you. You're welcome to stay if you want, but you do not have to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care. Okay, moving on. Case BZ 21-008. Holly Bloom at 551 Harris Street. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 1161.14 to allow an accessory structure to be constructed on a lot without a principal structure. Would you like to present your case, Ms. Bloom?
Certainly. I purchased this house in 2017 in November. And when I thought, you know, it was in a foreclosure and it was in pretty bad shape, but I really liked the location and I liked the house. So I noticed that there was a parcel behind the house that didn't belong to the house. So it's sort of an L-shaped property. And I went down to talk to Brad Cromis about the lot behind me. And I said, I'm afraid to buy this house because the property line is just, feet away from the standing structure of the house. So he explained to me that he told me about this land bank. And he explained to me that I could purchase this through the NDS. Is that what it's called? The neighborhood development in Ravenna. And I was very nervous about it because it would be impossible to resell with no backyard and only that side lot that I have the structure on. And by the way, I didn't realize I needed a permit, and I'm terribly sorry for putting up a building because I asked a couple neighbors who have buildings like that, and they said if there's no foundation, you don't need one. So I'm terribly sorry for that misunderstanding. But so anyway, I applied for all of the buying the two parcels behind me that are unbuildable lots. And I was through the process, it was approved, and then something happened with that whole process. And it made it impossible for me to, I don't know what happened. NDS is no longer handling that kind of thing. And I went to a couple zoning meetings way back a couple years ago, or a year or so ago. And I never got anywhere with that. So apparently I might have put that structure, and I would have combined the lot that's directly behind me. It's 4,400 square foot lot. It's been, the guy bought it in the 80s, hasn't paid taxes on it forever. It's unusable. There's no access to it on West Street. that's an alley, basically just an access to get back to clean out the culverts. That's what it seems like to me. There's no road there. There would be no access. It's too small to build on, and I don't own it. So I may have considered putting a lot of the building there, and I would have definitely consolidated that lot to my house. But I don't own it. I maintain it. It took me 3 years to abate the poison ivy and things that were growing back there. I have to maintain it because it's on my, it's right back behind my house. So I put the lot up next door, and Brad Cromus had also told me, he said, you don't want to consolidate those lots because that is a buildable lot with a driveway and an apron. And so anyway, that's where I stand on that. I don't want to consolidate these two lots because it's a buildable lot. It's not, I don't know. I just don't, it's expensive and I just don't want to do that.
Okay.
Maybe someday I might want to put a house in the front if that's possible. Maybe when my daughter's finished with college, she might want, and I retire later, I might want to have this here. And I have some good ideas about having a nonprofit organization with some community garden and some educational workshop things in that garage.
Okay. Okay, board, any questions of the applicant?
I
Hello,
do
hi.
have one.
Okay,
So I was just curious, in the application, you kind of talked about that Southside Makers and Growers idea as being a nonprofit, which in and of itself I thought was a pretty compelling reason to not combine the lots. But it sounds from the description you just gave like that's a kind of maybe somewhere down the road kind of thing. Or can you maybe just clarify that for us a bit?
Well, I wanted to do that from the time I started here, since I bought this place. And that was my number one, idea. There's we loan tools all the time to our neighbors since Kent Rents is gone. Then the Save a Lot is gone, and there's so many elderly people and people that don't have a lot of means to get fresh vegetables, fresh food, things like that. So I was planning to do it all along, but just in a kind of an informal way. But the more I thought about it and putting it into a nonprofit and starting that, it's not down the road, but the lot that's west of me on the other side of West Street, that's a city-owned lot. That is what my idea would be, to put a community garden. The people that live next door have been dumping things over there, allowing Dominic's Tree Service to dump all kinds of stuff. And I fear that going forward in the future, it's just going to start filling up with a bunch of garbage. So I would really like to have that as its own address with its own nonprofit incorporation. That's what I would really like to do with it. And I have all paperwork ready to go for that, but I haven't filed anything yet because I needed to see what would happen here. I can't take it down and put it anywhere else on my property because I don't own the lot behind me. I'm just sort of maintaining it.
Sure. Thank you.
fair enough. Okay, anyone else? David, Debbie?
Not I.
Sorry, David, did you say you had a question?
No. Debbie, anything from you?
Yeah, so my question was that, so she had mentioned that your plan was like eventually get funding. So in my experience with grants that particularly are gardening grants, from what I know from working with the health department, like the grants that we usually got for gardening, usually you have to show that it's in a location with high visibility to the community.
Mhm.
And I'm not, so that was one of my questions, was that I feel like, I'm not
As a point of
sure if
order,
that's
the
the case
question,
here. And
excuse me, Debbie, as a point of order, the questions should be related to the variance
also, you
only,
know, you have to,
not proposed operations.
right. So, and well, because she had included that in her application as part of the reason.
Right,
So,
but that's not the
like-
specific variance. The variance is putting an accessory structure on a parcel without a primary structure.
Yeah, and I'll build on that. What Bridget says, it's a nice goal for that lot, but yeah, it's not relevant to the decision.
Right, that's kind of what I saw
We're
too.
doing
that,
right now.
Her desire for a horticultural pursuit isn't a zoning issue at the moment.
No.
Correct.
So what is she then asking that she's going to be using that structure for?
Right. But
Well,
the
that's
fact
not
that the
our issue
structure-
either. Our issue is just to have the structure to whatever she wants to do with it.
Right.
The question is the same as the last case, an accessory structure on a parcel without a primary structure, which is not allowed under the zoning code. So that's where the discussion is focused on the variance request, not any future anticipated plans or what she keeps inside the shed.
Right.
Well, I
Unless the
think-
Morris,
oh,
fam-
sorry.
Right.
unless the Morris family think I was picking on them only, the city also is concerned about not having the parcels consolidated because that would, of course, obviate the need for having any variance whatsoever. Just as the city was concerned about that with the Morris family, we're also concerned about that with Ms. Bloom's application.
Okay. So, okay, I get it now. Okay, that makes sense.
Well,
So,
okay, I'm sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
With just taking off the table what I want to do with it for my nonprofit and my educational program and my community development idea, taking all that off, I have no other place at this point to be able to put a structure because all I own now is the lot, is the house and that lot. And I have a driveway access to it, which I'm going to have to pay for that lot because they're repaving my street. And I'm going to be assessed for that apron and driveway. So,
Okay. I'm
Okay, so
gonna
you're really
clarify.
just
Oh,
asking,
Debbie, did you want to say something else?
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so she's really just asking to add that structure on and not have the parcels be combined. Is that correct?
Correct.
And to clarify,
Okay.
Ms. Bloom, the property that you will not be assessed for that sidewalk, that is being done with federal community development block grant funds, and assessment isn't part of that.
oh, isn't it? I got a
Yeah.
letter and I thought it was an assessment just for the apron. It's not a
Okay.
sidewalk.
Okay, for the apron, that,
Yeah.
yes, that would be applicable. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So you own both properties, is that true, Miss Bloom? Holly?
I do. I just, I bought the house in 2017. It's one deed and but two parcels are on the deed.
Now, I do see a hardship here in your property, that the house sits on. There'd be no way to build a shed there, the same we had with the previous app, that to get it properly spaced from the house and properly spaced from the property lines would not fit. So. Okay, any other questions, comments from the board? Hearing none. Anybody on this, in this meeting is in favor of the variance, wants to speak of it? Have we had any inquiries, Bridget, from the community?
No public comments were received for this case.
Okay. So hearing none for against the variance, then I close public comments for now. So the board will discuss this internally. Comments from the board, please. Come on, Dave, I know you have something. No,
Well, when I first read this, I just thought Bridget had screwed up and doubled up on the zoning requests. Yeah, Bridget's right. It's the same as the last request. You've got a lot that you've got a house you own that you can't do what you put the shed on that you want, but you also own an empty lot next to you. This one is a little different in that it's not landlocked like the last one where it was totally behind the house. But there again, I don't see the same problem. I drove by it and looked at it. The dogs were very nice. The building is there. A lot of the application had to do with future uses, which I just sort of blew off because it has nothing to do with what she's requesting.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I really have never done this before, and I'm sorry if I went too far.
Point of order, the board's speaking, so public comment is over. Thank
I am
you.
so sorry. Please.
Thank you.
We're
Thank you,
going to
Dave.
turn off Holly. Click. So, yeah, I looked at it. It's existing. There again, it's way back on the lot. It's not obtrusive to the neighborhood. It's there so you can see what she wants to do because it's pretty obvious. So that looked okay to me.
Okay. Debbie or Jonna?
I generally concur with Dave. As I looked around the lot and the neighborhood, yeah, I don't think it's doing any impairment to other development in the area. And I kind of, especially in this case, would be a little bit more understanding of not combining the lots, only because this is a relatively removable structure, right? There's not a huge amount of demo involved. And so the ability to kind of have future development there is more reasonable since it does have its own street access off West right there. So I tend to think that this is a reasonable request.
I tend to agree. Here, Debbie?
I agree. I do like that it has the two not driveways, the street access as well. So that is nice. Yeah, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, quick correction is the additional lot where the shed is actually would have frontage on Harris Street, not west, which makes it viable and more saleable because you could put a house there and like I'm going to verify what Jonna said. It could be the shed could be moved.
Removed, yeah.
Okay, and I tend to agree. Again, it's the same thing. If they're small lots, they're typically the old city lots. Houses on is tiny. Which is interesting the way that was split looking at the plots here, but it's the way it was done. So we have to live with that. So I would entertain a motion.
Sure.
I can second.
Debbie, you going to make a motion?
Oh, no, I thought you had already done that. Sorry, go on.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Dave.
In case BZ 21-008, Holly Bloom, the owner of property at Move, we grant the applicant's request for a variance from section 1161.14 to allow an accessory structure to be constructed on a lot without a principal residence.
Do we have a second?
I can second.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Let's vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, variance passes. Okay, thank you. She's left already. Okay, moving on. I'm going to announce this case, but it's been withdrawn by the applicant. It's case BZ 21-009. Priscilla and Michael Herbsgruppen, 562 Valley View Street, was requesting a variance, and they have withdrawn by request of the applicant. So is there anything formally I need to do here, Bridget, or is that it's in the
Nothing formally you
documentation?
have to do. You called the case, announced that it's been withdrawn. We only even kept it on the agenda because of the fact that we had advertised it previously.
Right, correct. Okay. At that point, we have 2 sets of minutes to review. All right, I've lost.
Holly, you're done if you want to check out. You don't have to stay for
No,
the
Holly,
reading
you
of
can leave.
Okay, thank
old
you.
minutes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. I didn't get the second set of minutes.
We have December 21st and March 15th is what I have.
There they are. Okay.
I did not see any corrections in either set.
Yeah, okay. Anybody make a motion? Well, we'll do them separately. The December
Yeah.
21st minutes, everybody
Right.
okay with those?
Move that we approve the City of Kent Board of Zoning Appeals public hearing and decision meeting December 21st of 2020 meeting minutes.
I will
Second.
second that.
Dave? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
And for
March
the
15th meeting.
Just to clarify, Debbie will not be able to vote on that. It was just the 3 members voting, correct?
Oh, that's
Debbie
correct.
wasn't
Right.
present at the meeting.
Correct.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to clarify for the record for Kim, who has to type the minutes, that vote
Thank you for
includes.
Kim. Okay, but we did get an approval from David, Jonna, and myself.
Thank you.
Benjamin is not present. And Mr. Starr is not present. Okay, March 15th minutes.
All right. I
Comment?
move we approve the City of Kent Board of Zoning Appeals public hearing and business meeting minutes for March 15th, 2021.
Okay,
I can
Second that.
second.
Yeah.
who seconded?
It's all yours, Debbie.
Jonah and I both did, so one of
Okay.
us.
We can do Debbie on that one since she was present for this one.
I'm gonna give Debbie that one.
Okay, there
Okay,
you go.
minutes are approved. Last tidbit on the
We need to
agenda.
You gotta
vote on
call
that.
for the vote. You gotta. call
Oh,
for
I'm
the vote.
sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Let's vote, please.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, other business. Do we have any other business, Mr. Fink?
I have a quick announcement. If
Or
Eric,
Bridget? Ms. Suso?
go ahead, Eric. Do you have anything?
Nothing from legal. I bet we have the same announcement.
The zoning code did go to council 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, for its first discussion and review in total, which would include the sections that deal with the BZA and variance. Overall, the council agreed and supported all of the updates that were incorporated in the 220 pages. There was some questions and dialogue regarding the inclusion of some of the items under the purview of the Architectural Review Board, including public art and the color of buildings and some other aspects of those design guidelines. So it has, the proposed discussion with council will occur in June, and we will be taking those matters back. But again, that affects basically things that are in the design guidelines and covered by the Architectural Review Board. So we should have hopefully a zoning code here that will be new and forwarded to you most likely in July.
Excellent, thank you.
Very
Okay,
nice
Is that
recap.
what you had?
what was that, David?
Bridget, I just want to ask one other question real quick. Do we have a new person yet or no?
No, no one applied. So we're still with 4. If you know anyone, any of you, that might be someone that might be interested, they need to be a resident of the city of Kent. And they should fill out an application. They can get it downloaded off the website and they send it to the clerk of council. And then council will review those applications. So we're still sitting with a vacancy.
Okay, thank you all. I will entertain a motion of adjournment.
I move we adjourn this meeting.
And a second.
Second
Maybe
that.
we'll just stay here.
Can I second things,
Yeah.
Bridget?
Yeah, but I think, who wants to take that second?
Paul, you're allowed a second motion.
Okay, John is seconded, so we'll go with Jonah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you all. Stay safe.
Thanks. Good
And
night,
we'll see you
everyone.
next month.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
take care.
Bye.
Bridget,
Bye.
do we have stuff for next month?
Heather, do we have stuff for next month? I think Heather just hung up. So let me double check. Hang on 1 second.
Okay, cool.
Not that I'm moving, so it really doesn't matter, but
Well, and I'm like a good dog now. I've had my shots.
yes,
Yes,
I've
there-
had my shots.
Yes, there are
So-
cases next month, Heather said, so we will see you next month.
Okay,
Okay,
we'll see you
good.
next month.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Bye, guys.